بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد سيد الأولين والآخرين وعلى جميع إخوانه من النبيين والمرسلين وآل كل وصحب كل ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. All praise is due to Allah, and may Allah raise the rank of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and protect his nation from that which he fears for them. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, let us first have the proper intention in our hearts to attend the lesson for the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah to increase our knowledge and benefit us with the knowledge we acquire. Ameen. Last week we started talking about the prerequisites of the prayer. Shara'it as-salah. We mentioned that, as Al-Qadi Abu Shuja', may Allah raise his rank, said that the prayer has 5 conditions before commencement. We did mention that the condition is not part of the action. However, without it, the action is invalid. Here we are talking about the prayer. When we say this is a condition for the prayer, prerequisite for the prayer, it's not part of the prayer, but it's very essential to an extent that without it the prayer is invalid. First, the absence of ritual impurity, whether minor or major, and any unexempted filthy najis substance. We talked about this in detail. Your body, your clothes, and where you pray should not have any unexempted filthy najis substance. Covering the prohibited nakedness with pure clothing, that's another condition. Praying on a pure place, where you stand, where you put your knees and forehead and hands in sujood, all these spots must be pure. We did mention that if there is an area, small area on the floor that is contaminated with filthy najis substance, unexempted, but your body does not come in contact with it when praying, then your prayer remains valid. Like there is a distance, for instance, between your chest and the floor, and on that spot on the floor there is unexempted filthy najis substance, but your chest is not coming in contact with it, there is a gap, then your prayer remains valid. Knowing about the setting in of the prayer time, and we did mention either by observation, when you look at the west and you see the sun setting and the disk of the sun disappearing, or sometimes you might have a word recommended habitual practice. The recommended habitual practice, such as you pray Maghrib 3 rak'ahs, then 2 rak'ahs sunnah, then you sit down, you recite Surah Al-Mulk, then you praise Allah for a certain number, make salah on the Prophet for a certain number, and by the time you finish your wird, this is called wird, the time of Isha will set in. So based on this recommended habitual practice, you know that every time, by the time you finish your wird, Isha will be definitely started. So in that case, you can pray Isha based on this. We also talked about the tried rooster. You might have a rooster that you have tried that it crows every day when the time of the dawn prayer sets in. There are some roosters who does so. So if you tried this rooster and you found out that every time it crows when the time of the setting in of the dawn prayer starts, then you can rely on it as well. Then you can rely on it as well. And facing the Qibla. We talked about facing the Qibla, but not in much detail. And that's why we left the details for tonight's lecture with some slides that you're going to see to make it clearer for you. To face the Qibla. Al-Qibla, what the praying person faces. That's why it's called Qibla. In Arabic, from al-Muqabala, because the praying person will be facing the Qibla. And that is a condition for the validity of the prayer for the one who is able to face the Qibla. Not in two cases that we're going to talk about. First, in the extreme fee, and the second, during a recommended prayer while traveling on an animal. We'll talk about this soon, inshallah. The proof that one has to face the Qibla is the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَوَلِّ وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ وَحَيْثُ مَا كُنْتُمْ فَوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ شَطْرَهُ. So you need to face Al-Kaaba. And wherever you are, you have to face Al-Kaaba as well. So the one who is close to the Kaaba must face the Kaaba by his full body. So if part of his body is facing the Kaaba and the other part is not, then this is invalid. Because if you are praying close to Kaaba, you might be praying at the edge of the Kaaba, where part of your chest is facing the Kaaba and the other part is not. In that case, it's invalid. So if you are close, your whole body must be facing the Kaaba. The one who is far away from the Kaaba, if he can make ijtihad to face the Kaaba, he needs to an extent that he will be very confident that this is the direction of the Kaaba. So he has to make a type of ijtihad. When we say type of ijtihad, meaning he has to work out to find out the direction of the Kaaba. It's invalid to pray to a direction based on assumption. If he is in a place, in a park, and he doesn't know the direction of the Qibla, without making ijtihad to say, maybe I think it's to that direction, that's invalid. He has to make a type of ijtihad where he puts effort to determine the direction of the Kaaba. And the one who is able to make this type of ijtihad cannot rely on someone else's ijtihad. Because you make ijtihad, I make ijtihad. Let us say you have a compass, I have a compass. You use your compass and you find out, yeah, according to my compass, the direction is that way. I used my compass, I found a bit different. I trust my compass, you trust yours. Then we have a difference in the ijtihad. So you cannot take with my ijtihad, I cannot take with your ijtihad. Because according to your ijtihad, the direction I'm facing is wrong. And according to my ijtihad, the direction you are facing is wrong. So according to my ijtihad, your prayer is invalid. According to your ijtihad, my prayer is invalid. That's why the scholars of Islam, as Imam al-Nawawi in Al-Rawda mentioned, that when such a case arises, none of them can follow the other in prayer. None of them can follow the other in the prayer, because everyone believes that the other one is mistaken in determining the direction of the Qibla. The one who doesn't know how to make ijtihad can rely on others, like the blind person. The blind person who is unable to make ijtihad can rely on someone else's ijtihad. The scholars said the old mosques built 300, 400 years ago, well, it is known that the scholars have visited that mosque and prayed in it. One can rely on the mihrab, the wall cavity, in the direction of the Qibla. If it's an old mosque, so not the new mosques, the old mosques built about 300, 400 years ago, and it was visited by the fuqaha, the scholars, who prayed in such mosques, so they prayed to that direction. That's when you can rely on the mihrab, even without making your own ijtihad, you can rely on it. If you go to Medina, for instance, to the Prophet's mosque, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, you will see the mihrab. Now, who prayed there? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the companions. So you can just follow the mihrab, and that will be sufficient in such a case, without you making ijtihad. But in some hotels in Mecca, where you cannot see the Kaaba, because they're all now building high-rise buildings surrounding the Kaaba, you cannot see the Kaaba. So if you are a bit far away, you need to find out, to make some type of ijtihad, to see where is the Kaaba, and you follow the direction of the Kaaba. Now they have built this big tower next to the Kaaba, al-Masjid al-Haram, where they have a clock at the top. I think you've seen this building. That is very high. That's wherever you are in Mecca now, you can look at it. That will help you find the direction of the Kaaba. So if you can see the Kaaba, you need to face it by seeing it, or by making ijtihad if you are far away from it. If someone is in a place where he is unable, based on his ijtihad, to find the direction of the Qibla, the scholar said he would pray to any direction. He would pray to any direction. And for one to determine the direction of the Qibla, he must rely on one of the means that the scholars classified as sufficient means for one to rely on to determine the direction of the Qibla. And there are many. There are many means. The weakest is the wind. Sometimes with the wind, they determine this wind is coming from north. So they know this is the direction of north, and they know where the Kaaba is located, in which direction. So they base their ijtihad on the wind. This is the weakest. And the strongest is the pole, and that's the star. By the stars. Allah Ta'ala said in the Quran, وَبالنجم هُمْ يهتدون. By the stars, they become guided in determining the direction of the Qibla, and in their travel, they rely on the stars. Because the stars are above us, and there are some stars where they are called constellations. Constellations, a set of stars grouped together. They are grouped together all the time. They move, but as a group. They don't change shape. They have the same shape, and they move together. All the stars move. But the North Pole, in which those living in the Northern Hemisphere rely on, moves in its place. So it doesn't change location, it remains in its location, and it's moving around itself. Where other stars might be rotating around it, but that one will remain in that position. That's the strongest proof by the stars to determine the direction of the Qibla. The North Pole we mentioned, al-Najm al-Qutbi in Arabic, the North Pole, that is always in the north, in the true north. That gives you the true north. So in our country, for instance, when that gives you the north, if you put it behind your head, so it's behind you, you know the back is north, you are facing south, to the left you have east, and to the right you have west. You can determine the direction of the Qibla, because in Damascus, for instance, in Baghdad, in Egypt, in Yemen, they all rely on this North Pole. We mentioned last week that if you put it towards your right ear, if you face it by your right ear, you will be facing the Qibla if you are in Baghdad and Kufa, that's in Iraq, and the surrounding towns. If you put it towards your left, so facing the left with the left shoulder, then you'll be facing the Qibla if you are in Egypt. And also, if you are in Yemen, for instance, you face it and you will be facing the Qibla. And in our country, Lebanon, Damascus, Palestine, Jordan, put it behind your head and you move a little bit to the left, you'll be facing the Qibla. Now, in China and Japan, they face west and little bit to the south. So it's west, west, south. When I say west, west, south, that means they're closer to the west. So to the west and little bit to the south. If you are in Australia, you face west and north. So west, north, west. This is the direction from here. If you are in South America, it's north-east. If you are in North America at the top, then south-east. Subhanallah, Mecca is in the middle of the earth, central. So in the middle of the earth, if you are in Australia, you need to face it. If you are in Russia, you need to face it. If you are in North America, South America, you face it. It's in the middle of the earth. So let us now show you this presentation that will help you determine the direction of the Qibla using the stars. Now we mentioned that there are many methods. For instance, at the beginning of each lunar month, the crescent, the new crescent, will appear in the west. That's why when it disappears and people are waiting for the advent of the new lunar month, people will go on after the sunset of the 29th of the lunar month, and they observe the western horizon. If they see the crescent, they know the following day is the first day of the new month. Now this crescent will emerge in the true west. Will emerge in the true west. So they know this is west. Once you know the west, you can find out the rest of the directions. From the North Pole, you know the north, so you know the rest of the directions. Also from the shadow of zenith, you know the shadow of zenith, that's the shortest shadow for an object. So if you have a stick, at 10 o'clock you see it has a shadow. Mark it. 11 o'clock it will become shorter. 12 o'clock will become even shorter. Around 1 o'clock now will be the shortest. Then after that it starts growing longer and will go to the direction of east. The shortest shadow, that's when the sun is in the middle of the sky. That's when the sun is in the middle of the sky. The shortest shadow, like in our country here, will be pointing to south. Because from east to west, so when it's in the middle of the sky, the shadow will be exactly towards south. So you know the direction of south from the shadow of zenith. Then you can find the west and you move little bit to the right. There is a common mistake that some people do, in which they say, yeah, we know the direction of the Qibla in Australia is to the west and a little bit to the right. So what they do at any time of the year, they watch the sun setting and they say, okay, we'll take a little bit to the right. This is not true. Because do you know how many setting points the sun has throughout the year? It changes in summer and winter. There is a difference. So between summer and winter, we have setting points. So in winter, for instance, it's very far from us. You can see it from your home because the sun is towards the northern hemisphere. So the setting in of the sun, that position will be the furthest. In summer, because it's coming towards you, the closest. So what is the true west? It's exactly in between. And you know it when the night and the day are exactly the same. When the night and the day are exactly the same. And that could be determined twice a year. That could be determined twice a year. At the beginning of spring and also in autumn. So when the night and the day are the same, then that means the sun is setting in the middle. That's the true west. That's another method that you can follow. Now, what about the stars? And that's the strongest, the scholars said. First, we need to understand that we have something called Northern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere. So just imagine this is the Earth, and you have the equator. The equator is the line in the middle. You have the Capricorn and Cancer line, they call them. Now the one in the middle is called the equator. From the equator and top you have the Northern Hemisphere. The equator and to the south, that's the Southern Hemisphere. Allah Ta'ala said, وَبالنجم هم يهتدون. This ayah means, and by the stars they find the right way in their travel and determine the direction of the Qibla. From the stars. It's good to learn about this. Imagine in the past, they didn't have navigator, they didn't have a GPS, and they used to travel in the desert and they know their way. From the stars. Sometimes from the wind, from the shadows. So they have all these means. That's why you can use many means. However, the strongest is the star. The Prophet ﷺ said, إن خيار عباد الله الذين يراعون الشمس والقمر والنجوم والأظلة لذكر الله. Narrated by al-Hakim in his book al-Mustadrak. So this hadith means the best of the Muslim slaves, so the Prophet is praising those believers, are the ones who pay a great deal of attention in monitoring the sun, the moon, the stars and the shadows for the purpose of determining the times of the prayers. Because you can rely on the sun to find out the times of the prayers and also the direction of the Qibla. The moon as well. You can use it to determine the direction of the Qibla. You can use it to determine the beginning of the lunar month. And even for the time of the prayer. The Prophet ﷺ كان يصلي العشاء لسقوط القمر لثالثة. On the third night of the lunar month, when the moon disappears, it disappears at the setting in of the Isha time. So the Prophet on that third night would pray Isha when the moon sets in. So that's a way of determining the time of the prayer based on the moon, monitoring the moon. The stars, we're going to talk about this now, and the shadows, we explain this. So you can use all these means for the acts of worship, to determine the beginning of the lunar month, to find the times of the prayers, and so on, to determine the direction of the Qibla. So the Prophet praised those who give a great deal of attention to these creations in order to perform the act of worship in its designated time. Now what can you see here is an image of the stars in the Northern Hemisphere. Ursa Major. In Arabic, the Ursa Major بنات نعش الكبرى, Ursa Minor بنات نعش الصغرى. Now look at this. I'm gonna join these stars together to form the constellation that is known as Ursa Major. This is called Ursa Major. How does it look like? Some might say it's like seen in Arabic but flipped over. It's like seen in Arabic flipped over. Can you see? It's shape, that's the Ursa Major. Take the last two stars, join them together, and keep going. You find this glowing star where it stopped. See that star? This is called Polaris, that's the North Pole. النجم القطبي. It's actually part of the Ursa Minor. Now the Ursa Minor looks like what? Kite. Looks like a kite. So it's at the end of the tail of it, as you can see. That's the North Pole, Polaris. Now that one does not change its location. Can you see him here as well? That's a different picture. So that's the first one is Ursa Major, the second one Ursa Minor. Can you see the North Pole now, where it is located? So did you know now how to find Polaris, the North Pole? You look at the Ursa Major and the sky, take the last two stars, join a line virtually, and virtually join a line, and keep going. You find a glowing star. It will be the end of the tail of something that looks like a kite. That's the Ursa Minor, and that will be Polaris. Now this is, you might be able to say it, Magellanic Cloud. Magellanic Cloud, you can see that. And you see a star next to a glowing star. This is known as canopus. They call it Najm Suhail in Arabic, canopus. People of Yemen used to watch the southern hemisphere, and when they see canopus, you know, they know the direction of south. So it's close to the South Pole. So where is the South Pole? Can you see it now? The crux or the Southern Cross, where is it? Who can see it? Now that's the South Pole. Before here, that's the Southern Cross. And you can see the pointers underneath. Can you see them? So what is the Southern Cross? And the two pointers. And where is the South Pole? Where the plus sign is. So that's the South Pole. Can you see the Magellanic Cloud? It's clear. Can you see the Southern Cross? Where is the Southern Cross here? See, yeah? And the two pointers next to the triangle. Yeah, the two pointers. Now look at this. That's the South Pole. In order to determine the South Pole, do the following. In the Southern Cross, which is like a kite, you know what a kite looks like? It's not a rhombus or fully diamond. From the top, the two lines are small, then it has long lines at the bottom. So take the top and the bottom, as you can see here, and join them together. And in the pointers, the two pointers here, you take the midpoint and draw a perpendicular line perpendicular line. Now that's virtually. And see where they meet in the sky. That will be the South Pole. Actually, in the south, in true south, there is no star that is like the North Pole Polaris, which is glowing. You can see easily in our country. Here, the South Pole, there is no star that can be seen here. However, they mention a close one. They call it Octantis. It's a star very close to the South Pole. So what we need to do, here is just to observe at night when it's clear. Look for the Southern Cross and join the line. And for the 2 pointers, join the line where they meet virtually. That will be the true south. Now what happens in that case, if you are facing the South Pole, it's very easy, very simple. At night, look at it with a good intention to learn. When you see the Southern Cross and the 2 pointers, join the lines virtually. Where they meet, that will be the south, the true south. If you are facing the south, if you extend your hand, the right hand like this, that will be which direction? Who can tell me? If you are facing south, now the right hand extended like this will be facing west. Excellent. So when you face west, what do you do next? You move little bit to the right. That's it. So now if you are in Indonesia, how do you determine the direction of the Qibla? Look at this. Once you determine the South Pole, face it, put your right hand like this, that will be west. Move little bit to the right, that will be the direction of the Qibla. It's very simple. Now, it's very easy, just keep that in mind. Kaaba is at the center of the earth. So those who are north of Kaaba, they face what direction? South. Those who are south of Kaaba, they face north. Those who are east of Kaaba, west. Those who are west of Kaaba, they face east. Those who are southeast, like Australia, we are in southeast, they face northwest. It's very simple. And let me say something. Does the night start in Australia first or in Mecca first? In Australia. So if we have night before Mecca, does that mean we are to the east of Mecca or to the west of Mecca? If the sun sets in Australia before Mecca, so imagine the sun is rising. We have morning, in Mecca will be evening. So by the time it goes to Mecca, that's when they have the morning. So we start the day before them. Because we start the day before them, what does that mean? We are east of Kaaba or west of Kaaba? East. Got it, this one? We are east. So we need to face which direction? West. Easy, simple? Okay. Another thing. If you were to travel to Kaaba, do you go north or you go south? South, you go to Antarctica. North, you go to Kaaba. So, to the north, and we are to the east. That means the direction of the Kaaba must be between west and north. So, west-north. Now, regarding how many degrees between west and north, that's what you need to determine based on where is your location exactly from the Kaaba. It's very simple. Now in New Zealand, do they start the day before Mecca or after Mecca? So New Zealand is east of Mecca or west of Mecca? East. So they need to face what? West. Is New Zealand north of Mecca or south of Mecca? South. So if the plane is in Mecca and they want to travel to New Zealand, they fly south or they fly north? South. If New Zealand is south, east, then the direction must be to what direction? Northwest. So that's why you need to learn how to determine the direction of the Qibla. Otherwise, to build just on assumption, it doesn't work. So let's continue our chapter. Al-Qadi Abu Shuja' says, it is permissible to leave out facing the Qibla in two situations: in extreme fear and during a recommended prayer while traveling on an animal. So we have two situations. The first, the extreme fear. The second is in the optional prayer, recommended prayer, while traveling on an animal. So keep these three things in your mind. Recommended prayer while traveling on a camel. If any of these conditions is not met, then one is not allowed to avoid facing the Qibla. So what about one wants to pray the obligatory prayer? The obligatory prayer, he's traveling on a camel, he is not allowed to avoid facing the Qibla. Ibn Umar mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ used to pray on his animal, like a camel, in the travel, whatever his destination is. So if his destination is to that direction, he will pray the optional prayer while riding the camel to that direction, even if it's not towards the Qibla. Narrated by al-Bukhari and Muslim. In another narration he added, but he never used to pray the obligatory prayer on his animal or on his camel. So not the obligatory prayer. So what do we learn from this? We learn something very important, that this case is only restricted to the traveling person when praying a recommended optional prayer and on an animal, riding an animal. So what about in the ship? The scholar said the ship does not go under this case. If someone is in a ship, he has to face the Qibla in his prayer normal. Because the ship is not like an animal. I'm talking about the recommended prayer. So what about the obligatory prayer? Definitely, if he cannot pray the obligatory prayer while riding his camel, so what about in a ship? What about in a plane? While you are sitting on the seat, suddenly you hear someone tapping on your seat from the back. You think he wants something. You look at him, what are you doing? And he says to you, I'm making dry purification. Tayammum. Tayammum on the seat? It doesn't work. Then suddenly they say Allahu Akbar, they start praying while sitting. In the plane, on the seat. And some of them in the bus, they do something like this. This is ignorance. This is invalid. You need to get up and pray. You can. If you need to go to toilet, they have this facility, or they don't have they have it in the plane, so you can use the toilet. You can make wudu in the toilet. Outside there is a space. You know, the exit seats, next to it there is a space. You can use that space and pray. And you know the direction of the Qibla from the direction of the plane. Like in Australia, it's very simple. When it's flying from here to Lebanon or to Africa, then the direction of the Qibla is nearly to the head of the plane. If you're coming from Lebanon to Australia, the direction of the Qibla is nearly to the tail of the plane, because it has this direction, easy. And in some planes, you know, they show you on the GPS how you're heading now, and you can see, just to give you an idea, the direction of the Qibla. So you don't have a reason to avoid facing the Qibla and not to pray while standing in such a case. You see how some people are ignorant. They think the religion is like an elastic band. They stretch it whenever they want, they release it whenever they want. This is not how it is. You need to follow the rules. So this case, so if someone tells you, tell him the Prophet prayed the optional prayer when traveling on a camel and the like, that when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam avoided facing the Qibla. But in the ship, even if you are praying optional prayer, you need to face the Qibla and you pray as you pray normal. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to benefit us with the knowledge we are acquiring, increase our knowledge, and grant us good ending. Ameen. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. We say La ilaha illallah 3 times.